In the 1960s and 1970s, the whole country was fascinated by films about Indians. These were westerns with chases and battles, with courageous and just heroes defeating conquistadors. These movies could be called fairy tales. In them, good triumphed over evil, and the main characters were role models. But there are also unknown stories about the Indians that are not told in the movies. They had vices that are present in any society. Rules within the tribe. The laws made within the tribe were to be obeyed strictly. The Indians of North America believed that rape among their own people was a serious crime and equated it with theft. It was up to the victim and her relatives to decide what to do with the rapist. They could demand gifts and offerings from him, but if they were very angry, they could also demand the death penalty. Fortunately for the men, few victims were of a bloodthirsty disposition. For the most part, everyone was satisfied with material gifts. After accepting the gifts, it was considered that the situation was made up, and no one was offended. In spite of internal prohibitions, in the Apache tribe, hot young men often took girls' virginity by force if they did not see a response from them. If a girl became pregnant after such an affair, her parents, to save their reputation, forced the young Indian to marry the girl. Usually the young man did not object, for he only took the girl by force because he liked her. In the Ojibwe tribe, shamans would threaten girls with rape, and then they would use their young bodies themselves. There were many cases of stepfathers raping their daughters. A widow who had recently lost her husband believed a shaman who told her that her husband's spirit would come to her at night to conceive a son. Instead of the spirit, the liar himself came and raped the inconsolable widow. Only months later, when she became pregnant, she realized how she had been used, told her fellow tribesmen everything, and left her shelter with her mother, writes the American anthropologist Landis in his work The Ojibwe Woman. The zealous warriors of the Utah tribe had another pastime. After battles, they would ride their frisky horses into their village, shout and let out a battle cry. Almost no one paid any attention to them, but some of the girls began to laugh at their childishness. The reaction of the Indians was inadequate. They grabbed the mockers and brutally raped them. The birth of prostitution. The late 17th and early 18th centuries saw the birth of classic Indian prostitution. Trade relations flourished. Indians were happy to receive the benefits of civilization, and white traders and hunters did not mind amusing themselves with Indian girls. Prohibitions against the intimacy of Indian women with white men seemed to still exist, but in reality freedom of manners was gaining more and more space. And Indian chiefs did not mind using tribal women as commodities, along with deer and buffalo skins. After all, in exchange they received weapons, ammunition, and household items. The Chinook Indians had an elderly Indian woman who traded girls. There were 9 of them, and they were in the business of providing sexual services to white hunters. Their pimp got scarce goods or money for it, wrote Patrick Goss, a member of the Lewis and Clark Overland Expedition of 1804 to 1806. A group of so-called trapper women formed in Ohio. They not only had intimate relationships with the French hunters, trappers, but also served as housekeepers to them. They did the laundry, cleaned, and cooked. They were temporary wives. After the end of fishing and the departure of the hunters, the women returned to their settlements. The Assiniboine Indians were also quick to see that their female tribesmen could be a good commodity. Indian visits to our fort were often very intrusive. The men actively, with excitement, as in a bazaar, tried to serve their wives and daughters even for a pouch of tobacco. They were annoying and intrusive. They were not ashamed to offer girls even to men who had families, wrote O. Henry. Many tribes had female seductresses. They were not judged, they chose their own way. They danced half-naked during festivals and were available to any male of the tribe. The girls became hostages for the duration of the feast and then returned to their huts. If they became pregnant afterwards, the tribe would accept their children. The Creeks had an even more amazing tradition. A married woman could offer her body to a tired traveler. Neither her husband nor other relatives could reproach her for it. It was considered that the woman was free to dispose of herself. Indians and white girls. In battles with the white-faced Indians, men, women, and children were captured. The Comanche tribe was particularly cruel, and when they attacked a white settlement they spilled much blood and brutalized the inhabitants. The captives were brutally treated, the torture was elaborate and long. Women were also brutally tortured and abused. Any member of the tribe could abuse a female prisoner countless times. Such barbarity was not considered a crime because it was committed on the path of war. The girls had one advantage over the men: they were more likely to be kept alive. They became concubines and served the Indians. The captives hated their captors and risked their lives trying to escape from the tribe. Girls 13 or 14 years old were subjected to an upbringing process. The tribal chiefs believed that they should make ideal wives for those close to them. European girls were believed to have courage and self-confidence. An upbringing was designed to make captives forget their cultural customs as quickly as possible and identify with Indian civilization. Many girls came to terms with reality and became wives of tribal leaders and warriors and bore children. Often white women were kept in the tribe for later ransom or exchange for red-skinned tribesmen. The histories of the North American Indians, whose history goes back some 12,000 years, show us that they had the same vicious urges as European societies, proud of their civilization.